Welcome to Launch Code, a premier business podcast, starring Evan Hafer, Matt Best, and Jared Taylor.
Welcome back to another episode of Launch Code, starring Evan Hafer.
These intros are tough.
I don't know how
it's like I gotta have like a music or something. Like going into them cold is fucking brutal for some reason.
Well, I like the intro music because if we don't hear it this time, but normally it gets you amped up.
And you're like, yeah, ready to go. Let's fucking go.
We have some fun people on the show today.
We do. We've got.
Can we call you by your
You
name
absolutely
here today?
can. Yeah, this is good for that. You can call me whatever you want. It's out there.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Our good friend Tier is on the show.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Sergeant Major, one each.
Yeah.
And Bryce Mahoney.
Hello.
Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Okay. There we
Yeah.
go. I mean, I figured as much. It's
That's
pretty
good.
easy to fucking.
You'd be surprised how many people screw that name up.
Really?
Oh yeah. Bruce,
Mahoney?
Brian, Breyer.
Mahoney?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mahoney.
And the fact that Mohoney is
Mohoney.
what are you doing in Korean? Like that was just a nightmare when I was in
onion.
Korea.
I'm going to forget this isn't super off the wall, but I want to say now, can you give me a Derby hat or get me one? I'll buy it.
Absolutely.
Okay, because it's a good looking hat.
It is.
It's a good
I got
looking
to
hat.
spread some love
Scroll
on the social
Factory.
medias about
Yeah.
the awesome stuff you guys are doing.
I'll send you a lovely care package.
Not just the hat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what the care package was going to be. Yeah.
You know, it's just people give me so many shirts these days.
I know.
Like, here's
No.
9 shirts. I'm like, man, I own an apparel
I
company.
own an
and
apparel
And
company.
a merchandising company, too. It's okay, though.
I got it.
So why don't you do an intro? You work with the Derby Project,
Yeah.
and which is an awesome Ranger Foundation who we've kind of supported throughout the years. You know,
Yeah.
Carl Monger and the Gallant Few. We've donated quite a few funds throughout the years, and just awesome people, good message, and yeah. Why don't
Okay.
you-
Yeah, Bryce Mahoney, director of the Derby Project, which is the Ranger wing of Gallant Few, which is all veteran, all time frame, all branches, mentorship, transition assistance, and referral organization. Carl Monger started Gallant Few a number of years ago as a Ranger-only organization at first, and then kind of developed into all veterans, all time frames, and then over the years came back to its roots in that kind of, where Rangers typically talk to Rangers. That's where their comfort level starts. So he started the Derby Project and kind of wanted to separate it from the Gallant Few. And
the Gallant Few, if I'm correct, and you can expand on it, but don't they give training and guidance to people that have transitioned out of the military with specific, like, what skill set and job profession they want to get into, kind of thing?
So it's essentially Derby Project's mission and Gallant Few's mission is the same thing. It's to facilitate a successful transition from military to civilian life. Over the years, that mission statement has definitely morphed into a different, a couple different areas, kind of figuring out where we belonged in the veteran service space, because there's a lot of overlap and redundancy, from different organizations doing different things. And it was started initially as a kind of peer-to-peer mentorship organization, and that's still its roots. Our goal is still to pair a veteran up with the most like-minded veteran that they can possibly, be with, a JTAC with a JTAC, a Ranger with a Ranger, MOS with MOS, across all branches, and provide that mentorship of veterans talking with active duty soldiers about things that they can take advantage of while they're still in the military to set themselves up for success, and in kind of that, like, hey, this is the route I went down. I don't want you to go down this same route, so take advantage of these resources. And it's taken on a little bit different of a path in regards to more of an assess and refer organization, because there's probably over 70,000 veteran service organizations out there that do everything from resume production to employment, career search, to substance abuse, to TBI work, to VA advocacy, everything. And the idea is to get veterans in the most professional and the best people at the job. And I mean, I tell people all the time, if a guy wants me to write them a resume, they can pretty much guarantee they're not going to get hired, because I suck at writing resumes. So I'd rather a professional write a resume for them for free that's got the AdWords and everything in it that they need to actually get hired on something. So it's morphed into more than just the kind of training. It's taken on even more of a mentorship role, and it's about connecting veterans with other veterans in active duty. It's about educating them on how they can be the kind of the link in the chain, specifically within their community, which ultimately empowers them to be more successful. And they find that purpose that most of us kind of lose when we leave the military, and that it fills that hole that most of us have when they can help another veteran not make the same mistakes that they do.
I imagine it'd be rewarding on both sides of the house, for the guy in transition and the person that's actually contributing to the success of the other guy's transition, because it'd be awesome to kind of mentor somebody, and then it's a sense of community.
Completely. I mean, I heard a phrase the other week on a podcast that I've been following that defined purpose for me especially, and it's the definition. My definition of purpose is to be a means to an end, and the end isn't me. And I'm not doing this for glorification or personal goals or monetary goals or anything like that. I just don't want to see another veteran go through the same thing that me or a lot of other people have gone through. And it really is just unrealistic expectations of leaving the military. We have such an unrealistic mindset and view of our transition out. I mean, especially once you get in the special operations community as well, we're bred from the very beginning that we're the best, our shit doesn't stink, and we're going to get whatever we want. And when we walk out of that brown fence, you carry that mentality with you. And, honestly, most people don't want to hire us because of our, they hear Ranger or they hear special operations, and it's like, oh, I don't want a killer in my office or something like that, So it's kind of bringing,
That's happened to me.
Right.
A few times.
And that's when you go and apply at blackriflecoffee.com, because we love hiring special operations guys and anybody. Sorry, I had to do that plug. That's happened to you,
love
too?
it.
Yeah. I was in the top 10 out of like 4,000 applicants for Seattle Fire Department. And I was a nationally registered paramedic, great skills, lots of real world experience, both in the streets and overseas. And I made it all through the Chiefs Board and everything else. And somebody that was contracted to look at the backgrounds and everything else decided that with my background, I had a propensity for PTSD.
A propensity for PTSD? That's their actual statement on there?
They didn't give me feedback. They don't like to give feedback. Nope. I found that out through a friend at a party. I actually ran into the chief that was on my Chiefs Board, and he decided not to do Chiefs Board anymore after that screening.
Really?
Yeah.
I applied and tried out for the Raleigh Fire Department 4 times in a row and never even got an interview. And the 4th time, I finally found an email for the training academy sergeant or whatever whoever he is, and wrote like, "How is a military veteran not even getting an interview?" And he came back with like, "Oh, you had a speeding ticket 3 years ago." I'm like, "This is complete bullshit."
BS, yeah.
But I am thankful. I'm so glad I didn't get hired by the fire department.
It's very rampant.
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
In law enforcement. Not so much on the federal side.
I applied actually several years ago. I applied to like a bunch of state trooper offices, and one of them was in Alaska, and they came back. And that's exactly what one of the guys in the recruiting and hiring said. Like, hey, right now, we're really not looking for a lot of guys that had military backgrounds.
Scared to
and I was
death
like,
of us.
how is that? And they're like, well, what we're finding is there are a lot of veterans that are going out on the street, and they're too violent for the conditions. And I'm like, wow, okay, so good. I'm glad that we're all just kind of lumped into this like category where it's like, oh, you're too violent. You have a propensity
it's like the hot end
PTSD.
specialist that was maybe like an infantry guy, and they're going to base all stereotypes off the one bad experience of a guy. I mean, come on, you can't. A job doesn't necessarily define the character and personality traits of somebody. I mean, it gives you a guideline of what experiences in life they've had, and those obviously supplemental to their character and personality.
And there's a lot of irony in there. I'm a FLETC certified instructor. I train federal law enforcement agents. They trust me to do that.
Too violent here.
Well, I actually have a theory on it, which I experienced it in my former office, which is it's actually discriminatory from the there's a significant amount of ego and envy involved in this, which is there's a certain and small segment of the United States of America that's been carrying the strategic load, we'll call it, without saying that strategic load.
That's a fun load.
And there's a very definitive portion of the society that hasn't.
Yeah.
And there was a very specific white and black line in my previous office at GRS where the guys, and I called them gate guards because they were fucking dudes that basically managed mall security in DC, and the guys that had actually done shit. And there was an attitude like, I can do anything that you can do. Well, but you didn't, so it doesn't really fucking matter. Like, I actually, we won the fucking soccer game. We have the trophy. You can't use your participant trophy here, motherfucker. Yeah. And that's, I really think there's a very, very definitive divide within this country. And I'm not saying everybody, not every civilian, but there's, especially in the male population of the civilian portions of law enforcement, civil service, we'll just call it government and civil service, which is like, guys are like, you went off and did something that I didn't have the fucking stones to do, so I'm going to use my position to fucking withhold you coming in here because I don't want to be outworked.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down.
That's one right there. I think it's I don't want to be outworked.
I don't want to be outworked.
Yeah. I don't want to lose my job because you're more proficient at what you do. And, and regardless of what we physically did in the military, it all comes down to, like, they didn't sign the line.
Right.
Like, that above and beyond that, like, it comes back to that, like, I can totally physically do that. Yeah, sure, great. It's like all these shows that are coming up to mimic selections and all this. Like, the first part of the show should be like, all right, why don't you go ahead and sign 4 years of your life away to me, and you don't really get to say anything about it. They'd be like, ugh, like, I don't want to be on the show anymore.
Too bad Bert just
I
walked
know,
out.
I was just thinking, where's
would have
Bert?
been perfect.
Bert was just in here, and he was the host on the selection.
Oh, awesome.
And actually, all those guys in that show, the instructor sides, are phenomenal dudes. Friends, most of them. But yeah, absolutely. Like, it's pretty easy to suck for 2 weeks with no long
right, yeah, absolutely.
But we saw it in the military too, because there were guys, and we all talk about it internally, the guys that are like, oh yeah, I was going to go to Ranger Battalion, but
There's always a but.
my dog had a white spot on its left shoulder, and I just took that as an omen not to go, or whatever the fuck it was, right?
Right.
Like, there's always the guy that was like, I was going to go to selection, I was going to go, like, I mean...
It's usually a girl.
Yeah, I was going to go to selection,
and it's just like people in general. And I don't think there's necessarily a hierarchy because everybody takes a different path in life. And I honestly put that out there. Whether or not you're in special operations or you served, if you join the military, you have a certain level of respect in my book because you fucking signed it and you're serving our country. Now, conversely, that's like the fire department. If you're a C-level student and the room's filled with F students, well, you're the rock star, right? And when an A student comes along, it's like, I don't want them in the fucking room because I look like
they're going to be the teacher.
And I like my lazy life. And that's why you see a lot of like guys in our community that have been very successful in entrepreneurship and all these cool things that they're doing is because they want to be the A student in everything that they do. It's just like you said earlier about like living the Ranger lifestyle and applying that to anything that you've done. And I think that just motivation is what has made a lot of guys like us successful.
Completely.
But then at the same time, made a lot of guys like us hard to assimilate back into civilian culture because they're scared by work ethic and experience.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of guys just living this, like, the good old days mentality, and it's immobilizing because you can't move past it. If you're always looking backwards, you're always thinking backwards of like, those were my best years, I'll never be that again. Like, how do you expect yourself to be successful in fuck anything?
To steal a comment from Ed Hafer, Evan's dad, you can probably say it better, but there's a reason the rear view mirror's so small and the window shield's giant.
That's really deep.
It's deep shit, man. My dad's a deep guy.
He is like well deep.
It's super true, and we were talking that as well, and I think it's kind of hard to break that cycle, and we've all participated in it. I truly believe that, where you sit and you talk about the past, and you almost let the past define the future, and it's toxic, it's immobilizing, like you said, and getting surrounding yourself by people that want to create a new, valuable, and rewarding future is absolutely the key to success. I mean, I will always be thankful for serving in Ranger Battalion, and the guys I served with are some of the baddest dudes I've ever met on the planet. But I can't be 31 and looking back at 24-year-old Matt and being like,
no way.
I wish I was him. Of course, you think I want to fucking be on a little bird and shooting people in the face again? You're goddamn right I do. But I'm not there in life anymore. I had to fucking turn the page, and I got to realize that it's not happening anymore.
I always like when Matt goes off like this because he acts like he's so fucking old. Like, oh yeah, I remember when I was 24.
Good old days.
And I'm over here
9 years ago.
I'm over here shifting around in the seat because my back is cramping up because I'm sitting down. Oh yeah, I'm 31. Oh god, I can't do that anymore.
Well, I'm in on a hyper fast timeline in life,
Right.
He
Sure.
ages like an Asian person.
I'm sorry, Sergeant Major. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll put that
Knife
back in the
later.
pocket. Yeah, I'll take care of that later. So, Bryce, I think something that you're doing specifically with the Darby Project, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean you're working specifically with Rangers.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I think that is something that is phenomenal. I just saw the whole transition process at Fort Bragg that everybody's required to go through. Mm-hmm. Because I had to go through it when I came back I just got back from Afghanistan a couple weeks ago, and I had to filter through this whole thing that's made for every
soldier for life.
Yes, and the whole thing. And it's not a broken system.
Sure.
It's actually much, much better than I've ever seen it. But at the end of the day, it's still not marketed or geared towards that special operations soldier.
Sure.
Our DD-214, aside from the Bronze Stars or whatever that's on there, still doesn't translate to anything in the civilian community unless you're going for contract work,
right,
or a very specific government job,
where it helps your veterans' preference,
right. And even then, if you don't know how to do USA Jobs keywords, you're not going to get past the algorithm to get that interview
completely
anyway. So I think it's really, really phenomenal that you've got that target specific.
Yeah,
market.
I mean that's really what it is. I mean, and it's. Coming back to that Soldier for Life program, it's first identifying some things that I see as barriers for us. One, it's not the military's job to help people transition. It's a volunteer in, volunteer out organization. Their job is to train soldiers to fight wars. That's it. I mean, and then it gets even more kind of specialized when you get into special operations community. Their job is to train and win wars. If you were working at Microsoft or another company for 6 or 7 years and you walked up to your first line supervisor and was like, I don't feel like working here anymore. I'm just over it. Would you help me find a job? They'd be like, there's the door. I mean, don't you think? Like, do you think Microsoft would be like, let me stop what I'm doing and help you find a new career? Probably not.
So I would say yes, but I also think that the military. I was watching a congressional hearing a couple weeks ago because that's what kind of a fucking nerd I am.
Sure.
And
get his powdered
they were
wig on.
talking. They were talking specifically with the command sergeant majors of each one of the services, and they were trying to hold the military accountable for getting training and then certification that matches and is current within the civilian sector. So truck drivers get CDL.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah.
That's where I would say, hey man, I'm totally on board with what you're talking about. However, if you're going to send a soldier, I was just ready to throw down there. If you're going to send a soldier off to learn how to drive a semi, and you're going to send him to,
why the fuck wouldn't they be civilian certification?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it
during the transition program, have a program where research so you can have this for another 2 years when you get out.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't cost anything, and actually, the government would spend less money, and they I know there's no statistics out there, but I'm just like pulling this out of my ass. The government would spend less money in trying to continue to evolve this process if they were just maintaining the civilian sector or the certifications. And you can speak to that on the 18 Delta side.
Oh, yeah.
Because what they did to the 18 Delta, and the Army is the worst. Out of all the services, guess who the 2 worst services are? I'll give you fucking 2 guesses.
Marines and Army.
Yes. They don't do it. And it was funny because it was a Democrat, and I forget who it was, but she was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how are you going to spend, 20 some weeks teaching somebody how to drive a semi
and it not
send
be
them into
civilian
Iraq where it's armored. They're going to drive this around in the fucking country,
Dodge
get shot
fucking
at,
bombs.
and then when they come back, they can't get a job driving a semi on an interstate in the United States of America.
Yep.
This is a not only a catastrophe, but this is super fucked up. She didn't say that, of course.
Yeah.
That's on my own. But you can speak to it on the 18 Delta side.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, so I've been in the Army just short of forever. And when I got my 18 Delta creds, at the time, we were required to be nationally registered paramedics. The only reason for that was so we could have some kind of licensure on the outside.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the schoolhouse decided it wasn't sustainable. So now we have a SOCOM paramedic license, which is only recognized in the state of Georgia for reciprocity.
Thank you, Doc Donovan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's ridiculous.
Thank you, Georgia. But yeah, there's all kinds of problems with that, and a lot of
Is that real how it is now? So you can be an 18 Delta paramedic, and then you get out, and you're essentially. I mean, you don't have that certification to practice.
You've got your ATP, which was advanced tactical paramedic, I think is what that is. That's a SOCOM.
Yeah.
That is a SOCOM certification.
You know Hendricks, Matt Nicholson, black medic?
I know Matt.
Yeah. So Hendricks has been having one of the hardest times finding employment in Florida because he wants to get his paramedic, but he has to have training in something else that they won't let him go to the course until he gets this, but he can't go to that until he goes to something else.
Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
I tried to recruit him back in because of that.
Yeah. Like, so he's going back overseas because that's what he has to do.
I've worked with those brothers a lot.
It's insane. But you're absolutely right. Like this division between the military and civilian sector, we have to do something about it. And it even comes back to a leadership mentality shift as well. And that's where I'm thankful that I get to focus more on the Darby Project and Ranger Regiment specifically because it's a smaller community that we can really start to kind of dive in and test a lot of these things. And something that really stands out to me is our leadership mindset within Ranger Regiment from E6 to E7, like the squad leader, platoon sergeant, first sergeant level. It is very do what I tell you or pay the physical price. Like, and they carry that mentality out that I can get through any problem through physical activity. I can be a better salesman through physical activity. And when it doesn't work, they get very depressed. It's like, this is how I got through everything in the military. And
brute force and physical violence can overcome anything.
Yeah. And having a lot of conversations with guys like Griff from Combat Flip Flop that are incredibly connected with Google and Amazon and a lot of the bigger companies, he gets the mindset shift of like, we should, as squad leaders, they should be inspiring their team leaders to focus in on that team and be more of a concentric unit as far as like, what is your game changer today to be the best rifleman? What is your game changer to be the best saw gunner? And it's like, oh, I do mag drills, I do this, I do that. And now when they leave the military, now it's what's my game changer to be the best salesperson? So they use the same leadership mindset to be the best at their civilian job that they did at their military profession.
Proper planning prevents poor performance.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. But coming back to that, it's not the military's job. I think they have a responsibility to align certifications and the process that everything goes through to make it seamless.
The mentorship component is so important too, because I'll use like me an example. So, when I was getting out, there was actually a lot of opportunity for things that I could have done that would have benefited me in the civilian sector. I just didn't fucking know about it.
Sure.
I mean, when I ETS'd, I think I had like 3 meetings that were mandatory, and there were some other programs. So, me, I was a dumb kid, and I was just like, oh, get the fuck out. So when I started going to college, I only had 19 transferable credits. That's it, right?
Yeah.
It was like Ranger School and like my EMT cert that went through. Whereas when I had talked to some of the liaisons, they're like, dude, you could have done some weekend college and it would have cut 2 years off of your degree with relatively not that much work. Like, we're talking 2-hour classes on a weekend, and if I did that for a year, I mean, I could have cut 2 years of full-time schooling off of me, and I didn't know that was available. But with that mentorship, if someone's like, hey, Dick Bag, when I was, in E4 in the military, you got a couple years left. Why don't you start planning for your future if you have an exit strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it comes back to that education part of, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. My greatest level of influence is Raleigh, North Carolina, because I live there. I can physically reach out and touch an organization and learn about them and see them for face value. And that's part of the educating other Rangers, other veterans, how they can do their part. We get a lot of people that are like, I want to get involved. What do I do? Okay. Spend 20 to 30 minutes a week Googling Veteran Service Organization and your town's name, and whatever pops up, call them. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? And what does a veteran need to have or do to come use your services? And write that information down, give it to us. We'll put it in a database that when somebody comes out and reaches out and they have a problem and they're in your AO, you've just given us a point of contact to send them right to the resource that you personally verified does what they say. And then it's our responsibility to create a follow-up with the veteran, with the organization, because it creates a circle factor of like, hey, how was that service? Well, it was kind of shitty. If I get 10 of those responses, now I want to go back to the organization and be like, hey, I just sent 10 guys to you. Here's what they have to say. It's not just like, oh, that organization sucked. It was, I spoke to this lady. She told me this. They did this instead. And we're documenting what these organizations are doing in the hopes that we praise the ones that are doing the right thing and we chastise the ones that aren't and get them the hell out of the way so people can start focusing in and supporting the ones that are doing the right thing.
It sounds incredibly labor intensive.
It really, that's why this is a full-time job for me.
And also really awesome that you have that level of follow-up, because I don't see that anywhere.
It's
everything is fire and forget.
It's utilizing, and I don't know what if you guys use Salesforce or have ever had any experience with Salesforce. Such a phenomenal program. I actually, one of my jobs out of the military was I worked at my jiu-jitsu school, and right when I got there, right when I started working there, we had started using Salesforce, and the gym owner was like, I don't know how to use this, so go ahead and start using this. Like, this is like a program that people spend like $3,000 to $4,000 to go learn how to just navigate the system. So like for the first month, I'm in the front of the gym just like figuring this program out, and the level of like automated workflow that Salesforce can do for us, it eliminates that fire and forget. Because if I had to physically write down like all of the follow-up appointments that I had to do for veterans, it would get lost, because you get caught up in conversation, and then when you put the phone down, you're off to something else, you forget to do it. And
so you're using that with the Darby Project?
Yeah, with Gallant Few, Darby Project, we use that. So when somebody comes in, let's say you come to the website, Gallant Few, Raider Project, Darby Project, Wings Level, you sign in, you get verified, and then you basically fill out a little bit of information that's populated into Salesforce, and that generates a, hey, thank you, we'll be in touch. Give somebody a calendar link to then call me or Carl to kind of do that initial assessment, and that's our 1 hour window of like, what do you need?
Right.
In the initial part, and everything is documented right on that Salesforce account page. So if Carl in Texas wants to read up what I talked to a Ranger in Wisconsin, he can just go in his profile and be like, oh, Bryce already talked to him about that stuff. And it just really cuts down on a lot of confusion, redundancy, and coming back to that fire and forget mentality. Like that's the worst part about it. Like, hey, go have fun at that resource. Let me know how it goes,
Right.
And like one of the biggest resources that we're getting a lot better at it with is Warrior Heart. Like, they're doing a lot of really cool stuff.
You're working with them.
Yeah. I mean, we have sent quite a few Rangers to Warrior's Heart.
Phenomenal.
I know Jeff Cardinal. He used to work for Warrior Heart. Know Tom Spooner very well.
Did you know we actually work directly with
absolutely.
them? We, on BlackRifle Coffee, 100% of the profit goes
that's
directly
awesome.
to Warrior Heart.
So what is that? I'm not familiar with that.
It's a substance abuse program, essentially. So what they do is, you could probably speak a little better than me on it, but they're taking individuals and putting them in like a month-long camp that have addiction, and all these other kind of issues, and they just kind of reacclimate them to what life can be. Like, hey, let's just go camp out for a little bit and just involve the families with it as well. It's cool.
The ranch where they're at Purple Sage Ranch, which was owned by, God, I can't remember. It's some really, really big company. They visited this ranch and basically like walked up to the house on it. We're like, we want to buy this ranch. And the homeowner was like, it's not for sale. And a year later it was donated to them. And, it is, I think the most unique part about Warrior's Heart is it is a substance abuse and PTS treatment facility for military, law enforcement, and first responders, which is unheard of across the board. And they focus on the PTS and substance abuse kind of together because they fit so a lot hand in hand. And their clinical team there just really has a great program that they've gotten dialed in to just really kind of strip the people down at the beginning and just build them up and give them the proper aftercare plan, because that's that's the worst part about it is you have tons of resources around the country where dudes can go and stay at this luxury resort for 45 days and get their substance abuse treatment, but then afterwards it's that fire and forget mentality again of like, go back to what made you drink, what made you freak out before, with no aftercare plan, nobody to follow up with. Chances are you're gonna get right back into the same mentality. And,
which is crazy you bring that up, because I'm actually hopefully putting a meeting together with Tom Spooter and my good friend John Hughes, because have you heard of the Boot Campaign?
I haven't. No.
Okay, so it's an organization and a subsidiary of that is called the Reboot program. And,
I think I've heard of Reboot.
And they're doing very similar things. What they're doing is they're not just treating a veteran saying, hey, you have PTS or whatever the issue is, and just blanketly throwing things at them to help fix them. They're doing like psychological analysis. They're doing blood work. They're doing CAT scans. And they're getting back like, hey, you have an 85% chance of being addicted to a substance. And it's like, no fucking shit, you're drinking every night. And so they're actually attacking the specific thing that is creating the depression and the issue within the veteran, and then solely treating that. And so they want to send their guys, hopefully, to the Warrior's Heart program for the guys that are diagnosed with substance abuse issues. So we're trying to get all these guys together. And
you've been to the ranch, right?
I have not yet.
Oh gosh,
I want
man,
to.
you've got like Purple Sage Ranch itself is just a super awesome place. They've got tons of deer running around the ranch. 2 ponds that guys in the program can go fish while they're staying there. Operation Overwatch is a dog training organization. They're on site as well. Bryce Kavanaugh, and on the their pastures are set. I think it's East Pasture, West Pasture, but the East Pasture has some Native American artifacts and like a lot of their ceremonial areas were down in this particular gully, and they do this ceremony for guys in the program down in this particular part of the pasture. And just hearing it from Tom of like how in depth and intense it gets for these guys, of just that whole process of like letting it go. And I mean, it's really that like washing and cleansing part of it before the real work can begin of getting past what has held them up and put those barriers in front of them.
So something for the audience, because we've dealt with this throughout the years of business, how do you vet charities, right?
Yeah.
Because we've been in proximity to certain ones that, we thought had a really good mission and were functioning ethically and morally, and then you find out that they're kind of not. Is there like a vetting process, or if I'm Joe Schmo and I'm like, hey, I want to donate $100 to help a guy out, like, do you have any suggestions?
It really is. It's something to, I guess I would say, reach out to them, like try to make the most physical communication that you can. I mean, if all you have is a phone, if you're not close enough to actually meet them at their headquarters or go into their facility or do something like that, I would tell people, talk to them, like kind of see how they talk. There's a lot of buzzwords going around. I mean, I even think transition has become a buzzword in the veteran service organization. It's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I do transition.
It's a buzzword in the military right now too, but it's for a different type of training now.
Comic release.
Yes. But it's like people are like, oh, what do you do? You know, we do this. Like, we help guys transition. You know, I have to use that term at some point. And they're like, oh yeah, you should check out this organization. They do transition. So it's like you check out what they do, and it's employment. Like, so really talking to the organization is one thing. I'm not. It's hard because you want organizations to be as transparent as possible. And if I sat here and said we don't have operating costs, I'd be lying out my ass. You know, like I get paid to do what I do, and I couldn't do what I do without this paycheck. It's not a 6-figure paycheck. It's what my family needs to survive. And when I hear organizations say that,
well, I mean, but that's character based too, because
Sure.
right? I mean, people have to understand their operating costs, right? But your heart and soul is involved.
Right.
You're not just like, let's just take a couple of weeks off and I still get paid kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I guess that's where it becoming that face to face.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean, it really seeing what the organization is about. Like, really, what are their reviews? You know, if check their reviews on Facebook or their websites, and honestly, if you see reviews on a particular organization's website, Facebook message those people and ask them how their experience was. I think, especially within our Ranger community, we should have a lot more kind of connectivity in that realm, and I hope to create that with getting even more in depth with Salesforce, of creating that follow-on process to where every time a veteran, we provide a veteran a service, they're provided a survey to rate that service, and that rating is known. I mean, it's visible on the outside of they get a 1 to 5 star rating and something to say about it. And I hope it gets to the point where people are doing it. And if I get somebody that rates it 1 and they're just like, this organization sucks, I'm going to delete that review, because that does nothing for us. It's the same with the VA right now. Like, the first, and this comes back to like training veterans how to properly handle situations. It comes back to like the financial assistance, like help, I'm in trouble. People throw money at a veteran, but then they go and spend the money incorrectly when they didn't need financial assistance.
Facilitation and
you're just perpetuating.
You're continuing the problem.
Yeah, like,
instead of addressing why the problem exists.
It's online panhandling.
Yeah, it really is. Like,
what is that?
Online panhandling.
Yeah.
We see GoFundMe's pop up. It's like, whoop, detach. We
Right.
can't do anything with that. And I've come to the mindset that if there is a veteran that has a financial need that can't wait 24 to 48 hours for us to kind of assess the situation and hear what's going on, then no amount of money I was going to give him was going to help him, because they are too far in the shit for it to make a difference. And it's almost to the point where like this person needs to fall on their ass to really get their financial, how bad their financial problems are affecting themselves, their family, and everything. And I'll tell you, man, it's really surreal when you lose all your money. When I got divorced from my first wife, she took everything from me, and it was like, oh, I guess it's time to start over. I guess I should try to find myself somewhere to live. Oh, this car looks great for a little while.
What kind of car was it?
It was a Ford Escape.
Oh, man.
A hybrid,
it was your little
hybrid
Escape.
Ford Escape. Yeah. I lived
good
there.
gas mileage,
Oh yeah.
man.
I lived there for a little while, and then I switched between a buddy of mine. There was a bunch of us that did jiu-jitsu together that they all rented a house a couple miles from our gym, and they let me rent a couch in the living room, which then I migrated into the formal living room that had no furniture, and I had an air mattress in there. But it's really just that the follow on, like coming back to the VA of like, hey, what have you done as far as going and checking out your local VA? Oh, they suck. Okay, who sucks? Well, they do. Like, well, did you even go? Well, no, I just heard it from this guy that they suck. Like, why don't you go in there, get me a name, document what they told you, then I can make a difference with that.
Man, you are speaking my language right now.
Yeah, like,
I allow the Sergeant Major to interject real quick. Anybody that comes to me that's under my mentorship, tutelage, my wings, whatever, if they come to me with the word they or them, they are turned right back around. Come back to me with a name. I can't help they, them. I can't fix that.
Yeah, I can't kick they or them out of their
I can't identify
job.
that problem. Give me a name. Give me an entity. Give me something specific.
Yeah.
They, to me, is a connotation of a lack of personal responsibility.
Completely. it's this like hand-holding mentality of like, I'm fucked up, I'm broken. Can I get help? Yeah, man. Hey, do this, do that. Like, no. Can you like take me to get help? No, I can't do that for you, because we'll be right back here 6 months later.
Unfortunately, that's kind of what the military, the culture
teaches
of the
us.
military is. It's like you're told when to show up, you're told what to do, you're told everything. You don't really understand the depth of why you're doing things, and so when you get out, it's this self-starter mentality. People don't know how to do shit themselves.
True.
It's like, oh, wait, I have to do that? Yeah, you're self-responsible for your own actions, and your own success is directly contributed to your output, and no one's going to fucking tell you what your output should be. Yeah. It's up to you.
Yeah, I General Allen's Soldier for Life program had a great, like, its intentions are great. I kind of look at the veteran active duty space as a proactive, reactive. Like substance abuse, PTS, all the stuff we're dealing with in the veteran space is all reactive. Like we can't plan for that kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen some of the greatest guys, and I'm sure you guys have too, some of the greatest men on this earth that were just incredible soldiers completely fall apart outside of the military for no reason, until they found out it was like they had a 10% TBI that was blocking a certain part of their blood supply in their brain that was making them act completely retarded. And it's like, how would they know that? And starting this process on a more proactive role. And I mean, thinking in what I'm doing, I look at Ranger Regiment of like, why aren't we talking to Rangers at the end of RASP going, hey, this is what 10% of your paycheck looks like in 4 years. You should put it away right now. Yeah. Like there's no conflict of interest in that. Right. That money's not coming to me. That's going to that soldier. Like, hey, don't rent a house, E4. Wait till you get overseas, and then you can start using your VA home loan and go buy a house. Oh, but I won't be here for that long. That's okay. Like, rent your house out, like, or sell it because the market's going to be up. Or hey, this is what your counterparts in the civilian world are doing to get better in their college education. Instead of going to Al Hoo's or the Cannon on a Friday night, or the Swiss, or whatever it is.
Swiss.
We got to get this regional.
Chopsticks.
You guys are all
two steps closed down there. I actually really like that. You said that earlier, which was really cool. The comparative nature of like, hey, this is where 23-year-old civilian is. This is where 23-year-old military guy is.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you got all these badass certs, but are those applicable to anything in the civilian sector?
Right.
No. Okay, well then when you get out, you're competing with the guy with the bachelor in science degree or whatever.
Yeah, completely.
So
and then you compound it of like, let's say we're talking to a group of 19-year-old Rangers in RASP. You bring Lead the Way Fund in there with their CAPS program that's all about college. I mean, there's your subject matter expert. Like, hey, guys that want to excel and get into college, talk to these people. They know how to get you into Ivy League schools. They will help you. Service the schools. If you don't want to go Ivy League, there you go. Or the other resources that are focusing in on those pieces of the puzzle. And you do that at the beginning. You plant the seed. 9 out of 10 guys are going to listen to it. And that 1 out of 10 guys wasn't going to listen to a single damn thing you said anyways.
So is that where you're at right now? Are you getting kids in RASP?
We're not in RASP yet. Like we're in step 2 right now. So like for me, on a perfect scenario, we're in RASP. Hey knuckleheads, you're about to move into big boy land. Like this was the easy part. Training, you didn't have responsibilities other than to keep yourself alive and not be an idiot. All your pay pretty much went into a bank account. This is where you transition into the real world. Here's some steps to follow and guidance. Oh, by the way, here's a video of about 70 or 80 Rangers that are saying the same exact thing. And that's kind of a segue. We're starting to kind of, when we go to these various events, to do five question interviews, basically who you are, who you served with, what's your one piece of advice for a 19-year-old veteran. Mm-hmm. And when they see that video and it's like, save money, go to college, don't drink on the weekend, do this instead. Like that just resonates the message. So that's step 1. So they start hopefully getting the gears moving, then through quarterly professional development seminars that are focused on a squad leader, a platoon sergeant, whoever. Because you throw the word transition into the seminar, it's like, fuck, I'm not going anywhere. I don't need to go to that shit.
Yep.
But when you throw professional development, this is us helping you develop yourself as a professional and a human being. Like this is growth. This is what leaders do. They're consistently growing. Leadership is a life sentence. So step 2 is you trickle more information to them through the quarterly briefs at each of the battalions. And then when they're ready to make that transition at 2 years or 18 months, regardless of where they are, now they're sitting down with the mentor, hopefully near the community that they're going to go back to. And it's a check the box, like, oh yeah, degree, I got that. Okay, nope, yep, here's my finances are all squared away. I'm going back here to do this. I've already got my resume done through your 6, which I started when I was a private because I just slowly started adding all of my schools and identifiers into your 6, which automatically generates you a resume coded specifically for like USA Jobs and the algorithms that they look for in the civilian life. And then it's just checking the box. And you drastically reduce the amount of people that are coming out of the military with false expectations and really an unrealistic plan.
That's key that you touched on it. You're making a video with a whole bunch of Rangers and their advice and their success stories and failures and whatnot. I think that's key because something that's always, anytime there's an ACAP program, Soldier for Life, whatever you want to call it, in that transition program, everybody in that seat that's required to be there is looking up at whoever's talking to them and wondering, it's kind of the guidance counselor thing, you know, like, all right, you're giving this great advice, but you're a GS5.
Right, yeah.
Why are you in front of me right now?
Such a valid point. I've done that in my life where it's like, you got to go out there and succeed. I'm like, but you're a GS5, dude.
Right, right. No,
and
yeah.
you're 47, so
You got the wrong people for preaching the message.
You're driving
their
gut
intentions
truck.
are great.
Correct.
Sure.
I don't mean it, good intentions. Just it doesn't resonate with somebody that's a go-getter. You're like, well, it's an unauthentic approach to it because you can't.
Or even put it in our community. Like what can General Votel tell me about transitioning? I mean, we're on different tiers. Like, yeah, we're in the same community, but he's going to transition way different than I'm going to transition.
Well, he's already going to have a job waiting.
Exactly.
Right? So I mean, that's a whole other issue too.
Yep.
It's like, there's a very definitive divide as well, where it's like you've got guys that already have degrees, they've maybe already been civilians for a while, so they actually understand what they're utilizing the military for. And if it's 4, 6, 8, however many years, they've already got a pretty good idea. Like, hey, you know what? I am if they're a little bit older, it's like I am going to spend the weekends doing get my BA, my BS, my MBA. Fuck, I knew tons of those guys, man. Like I knew tons of those guys. But the 18-year-old that does 4, 5, whatever it is, she is typically. They don't even know what the fuck being a civilian is like.
They're so immature at that moment. Like,
well, they're back at 18. They're starting at 18 again, basically.
Completely.
With a ton of they have the wisdom of like people that are much older to them in the terms of like life experience, especially if they've seen a lot of things in the special operations community gets to see. They've got all this experience. They don't have any of the credentials. Mm-hmm. And like these are check the box type shit.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Check the box.
And another part of this too is we'll call them the heavy hitters in the special operations community need to be more vocal about the assistance that they're getting mentally, physically. I know a lot of guys within the Ranger community that are legends within our community that get pretty extensive help. And to see somebody, to hear that from somebody like as an E4, E5, like, hey, I got help, you can get help too. That resonates so much versus E5 to E5, like, hey man, get help. Like, what do you, fuck off.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially like a unit like SF or Ranger Battalion. I mean, I remember we came back from a deployment once and everybody's filling out, like the PTS thing. Did you see anything this trip that like really fucked with you? And like, one guy out of 60 had marked a box and they grabbed him and he was like the laughing stock. We're like, you fucking pussy.
Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah.
It's so competitive. Like you don't bleed. You don't have wounds and all of that stuff. It just admittedly that's the culture that it is. And it's why those units are so good. But there comes a point in time where you have to be like, okay, it's okay to actually ask for some help and some assistance.
I'm thankful
it's not being weak. It's actually being strong.
Yeah. I mean, reaching out as a sign of strength is the realwarriors.net. It's a DoD campaign that they have going on. Like that statement is never truer than, I mean, there's no more truer statement than that. Like that is strength. Like raising your hand and being like, I'm fucked up. Like, I don't know why I'm fucked up, but I need help. Like I'm willing
lost,
to do.
Right? Like,
I'm lost.
I don't know what the next step is in life. Like I don't fucking know because I've never done it.
and finding people that are willing to, you know, at first it's that I'm lost moment, but especially for somebody like me that's in this industry, I'm only going to go as far as that person goes himself. Like if I provide them that information and they sit on it and do nothing, that's as far as I'm going with them. Like this is, as they say, this is not a handout.
Bootstraps.
Yeah, like there has to be that level of self motivation in it. You know, they have to decide their own level of involvement in this. And I tell people all the time, like if you're not ringing my phone off the hook and like, hey, what's the next step? What's the next step? Like that's wrong to me. You know, if you're in such dire straits, this should be the only thing you focus on is getting past this. Like, what do I need to do next? And there have been plenty of people that have come to us and asked for assistance and been that way. And it just motivates me even more because they see they see that necessity of like, okay, I'm reaching out for help. They've given me the help. I'm being proactive in it. And they are the success stories, the ones that still have that, you know, just that mentality that, oh yeah, you just get me what I need and I'll be okay. They're the ones still stuck in their old ways, and they become repeat customers.
So for anybody that like wants to read up more on the program and support you guys, where can they go for all that kind of information?
They can go to gallantfew.org, darbyproject.org, raiderproject.org for the MARSOC community. Wings Level has been an Air Force entity of what we've been doing. It hasn't really taken flight yet. And mostly because it was...
See what you did there, by the way.
Yeah. It had an all Air Force kind of mindset to it, but it wasn't going anywhere. And recently Carl connected with an AFSOC commander, and they kind of talking more. It realized just like the Darby Project and Raider Project, there has to be this kind of like isolation and focus on the AFSOC community, the JTACs, the controllers and PJs and stuff like that. So that program is getting a little bit more, active as well. So it's gallantfew.org, darbyproject.org, raiderproject.org, and wingslevel.org. Any of them kind of cross over to each other. If you find yourself in the wrong community, it's fairly easy to get back to that. That's how you can read up on what we do. We post everything on Facebook and Instagram. One of the biggest things that I like to do, and we strive to do specifically with the Darby Project, is any events, regardless of what organization it is, we have a community calendar that lets everybody know what's going on, because there are so many good events going on out there by Travis Manion Foundation, by Lead the Way Fund, and if you're not looking at each of their sites, you don't see this stuff. So to have a populated calendar where somebody can just look at the whole month and see what's going on, and that's kind of stage one. The hopes is that it gets a little bit more community based, so that when you click on you click on Raleigh or you click on Columbus, it will start to draw down on like, okay, this is what is here for this community.
And for people that should be on the mentor side, the same thing? Same
thing. Yep. We're getting a little bit better in the process of kind of starting that initial mentorship assessment. Mm-hmm. You'll at this point you'll either talk to me, Nick, or Carl to start that process. But like I said before, the biggest thing that I want to see out of somebody that wants to help, be active in your community. Take the time. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. Like this is the hard thing for me as an organizational leader, somebody that gets paid, because I mean, I get to focus all my time on this. Whereas somebody that's got a job, I get at max 1 to 2 hours of their time a week. I mean, that's really stretching it for a volunteer. And I have to then inspire them to do that work and take that time to research that stuff. But that's really the biggest problem that we have right now, is like when the flames flare up on somebody, it's like, where do we sit? This is new. I haven't dealt with this, because I want to start locally. Like I want the process to be specifically too in our Ranger community, that when somebody blows up on Facebook, everybody in that group knows it's like, okay, time out. Nobody do a GoFundMe yet. Let's figure this out.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm going to call you. What's your name? What's your number? do an assessment. Where are you? What do you need? Like, why do you need this? And then, hey, if that's as far as you can get with it, bring it to me, and I'll be able to focus more time on it. But what you see right now is somebody blows up on Facebook, somebody's name gets tagged, like, hey, here, deal with this. And it's like, oh, I don't really know what the situation is. Like, I'm not even friends with this guy, but obviously he's blowing up or doing something. So now I got to go figure it out, when they could have just taken the connection that they had with that person and be like, yo, what's going on? And then they come to me, brief me on that. And now it's like, oh yeah, we can totally do that. So anybody willing to volunteer, that's really the first step. Be active in your community. And that was a big shift for me when I first took over Darby Project. I was like, this is going to be fucking awesome. We're going to create all these ranger communities that are connected and hanging out and creating events.
We're going to call them fire teams.
And it comes back to where we were going to call them, just regional. It was just going to be this large connected this community organization. But it came back to that time. Like, how much time do people actually have to do this? And then throw on top of that, like, event planning. Like, shit. I think that's why most of them are breakfast, because it's just a show up and eat kind of thing, versus, like, before I got involved with the Darby Project, I was doing outside stuff. Like, I would put a message out like, hey, I'm going rock climbing in 3 weeks. Anybody in this area want to go with me? I'll set you up. I have like 7 harnesses. I'll find you some shoes. Just come out, you know. And we did it for climbing. We did it for surfing. We did it for paddleboarding, hiking in the mountains. And so I realized at that point that lack of time, we need to utilize what's already there. Like Team Red, White, and Blue is a great example. Like, they have communities everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're doing physical, they're doing fitness events, they're doing running. Go see what they're doing. Wear a Darby Project t-shirt or Gallant Few t-shirt. Take a couple pictures. Like, hey, I'm on my Team Red, White, and Blue Friday run, representing the Darby Project, representing the Ranger community. Like, the impact that has across the board of, like, not only getting involved with an organization and finding that purpose, but it just shows that cohesiveness of like, we support their mission, because we're telling guys like, hey, go find them. And if you find somebody new, bring them to us. Like, hey, these people are doing X, and I think they're a good organization.
I was really excited about all of that until you said running.
Which brings me to my next topic.
I mean, I rock those RWB shirts because I support, but I don't run in them.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can't get anybody in this room to support.
I'll watch people run.
Yeah,
Run Ranger
I'm all about
run.
supporting other people running.
Yeah.
Probably drinking a beer.
I'll serve some
and
coffee.
deadlifting.
I'll serve some coffee for you guys.
Yes.
It'd be really good.
Yeah, so
stopwatch.
our Gallant Few's annual fundraiser is coming up. It actually starts next week, February 1st. So it's called Run Ranger Run, which was based on
Again with the running.
Corey Smith. Well, you can walk it. And Corey Smith back in, I think, 2010 was going through some issues down in Columbus and ran 565 miles. Ran 565 miles back home. Yeah.
Like at one time?
Like I think it was over a period of days, but straight shot up there.
Wow.
And it was originally to raise awareness of PTS and separation anxiety and stuff like that. And then that kind of rolled into Gallant Few's annual fundraiser. And I like it because it's the only time we ask for money for the year. Like, it's the one thing I hate doing is asking people for money. So we just rolled it into this competitive running event that teams of 10 run 565 miles or bike or walk or ruck through the month of February. So it's 56.5 miles per person, about 2 miles a day.
Yeah.
And at first, the campaign is an awareness campaign because everybody that's involved is just spreading the message of what we do, but also it's a fundraiser as well. So people can sign up. They can pledge to raise $500, $1,000. It's not a per mile kind of like elementary school walkathon kind of style. You have a link when you sign up for your team, and you post that on your social media. Hey, I'm running or walking for Run Ranger Run, yeah, it's blown up over the last years. Darby Project got its first corporate sponsor this year for the event. Thankfully, Stephen Brown, he's a 375 dog handler. He works up for BAE, and he made a connection with an organization that was looking for something that they could kind of inspire their 5 locations around the country to get involved with. So we set up the initial meeting with them, and their original plan was to do 3 teams at each of the 5 locations. That's now birthed into like 5 teams at each location, plus the subsidiaries that they work with have now gotten involved. So to see that involvement, not only on it like supporting an organization, but like these are corporate companies that a lot of the people probably aren't very physically active. So to hear and see them get inspired and want to do, basically like hearing them talk about setting up plans to create group runs or group walks around their buildings every day, just like how on board they've gotten to support this. It continually fires me up to want to keep doing it and push the envelope even further. Like this year, I'm pledging to run 56, ruck 56, and ride my bike 56 miles in February, and it'll really just come down to like proper planning of mileage.
Yeah,
not like I'll bike next week.
That's where that budget training
February
comes into play.
27th, it's like I've got to run 56 and bike 56 today.
So I'm really good at doing things at the last minute. Had a team leader, Paul, told me once.
You're really good at
the best thing about waiting to the last minute is it only takes a minute. Kind of live that. I don't think I
like that, but I don't like.
I don't think I can do the 56 thing.
I can appreciate that, but not as an employer.
Well, awesome, brother. Thanks for coming on.
No, I appreciate having me.
Yeah, it was great. Hopefully, everybody got a kick out of that, and go check out the Darby Project.
I'm going to do your favorite thing, Matt.
Do it, Sergeant Major.
Yeah.
Oh yes, another
Yeah,
coin.
another coin.
That's a good Sergeant Major coin. I don't even have one of those.
Look at that.
I haven't earned mine yet.
No doubt.
I'll stand at parade rest for 6 hours or 56 hours.
You stand outside my door.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stand at parade rest for 56 miles. I don't know how that works.
56 miles.
I don't know how that works.
Just in the back of a trailer. Just.
I love it. That would be great.
All right,
would
guys.
be awesome.
Appreciate it, and thanks for coming out, brother.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Cheers.
Bryce.